Welcome to Zoe Stories. My mom's boyfriend wanted a daughter, so she turned me into one. I never thought my life would change overnight, that I would go from an ordinary college student to something else entirely. My name is Ethan, and up until a few months ago, I lived a pretty normal life. I had a small circle of friends, an average academic record, and a relationship that felt like my anchor. Emma, my girlfriend of 2 years, was the one person who made me feel like I belonged. She had a way of making me feel safe, of making me forget about the things I tried so hard to suppress. She thought she knew everything about me. But if Emma knew the truth, if she ever found out about the secret I kept buried deep inside, she would leave me in a heartbeat. I wasn't like other guys. I had always known that. It started small, an innocent curiosity. My mother's old clothes in the attic. The smooth feel of a silk nightgown against my skin. The way a simple coat of lipstick could change the face in the mirror. It was intoxicating, terrifying, and impossible to resist. At first, I told myself it was just a phase, that every boy was a little curious. But deep down, I knew better. The rush I felt wasn't just about wearing different clothes. It was something more. A side of me I couldn't explain. A version of myself that felt more real than the one I showed the world. I learned to hide it, to be careful. But secrets have a way of catching up with you. And mine came crashing down the moment Richard entered our lives. Mom had been single for as long as I could remember. My dad had walked out when I was just a kid, leaving behind nothing but broken promises and unpaid bills. Mom had done everything she could to keep our lives together. She worked late shifts, took extra jobs, and never complained, not even when we had to scrape by just to afford groceries. So when she met Richard, it was like she had finally won the lottery. Richard was wealthy, powerful, and confident. Everything my mom had never had in a man before. He owned a chain of businesses, drove expensive cars, and treated my mom like she was the center of his world. She was happier than I had ever seen her. But something about Richard always felt wrong. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, like I was some kind of unfinished project. Or maybe it was the way he spoke, always making comments about how lucky my mom was, even though she only had a son. At first, I thought I was imagining things, that I was just being paranoid. Until one night, when everything changed. It was late, long after midnight, when I heard them talking in the kitchen. Their voices were low, almost whispering, but something about the tone made me stop in my tracks. I just always imagined having a daughter, Richard said, his voice smooth and persuasive. Someone to spoil. Someone to guide. Boys, they grow up and leave. But daughters? They stay close. They take care of you. Mom laughed softly. Well, I only had Ethan. Richard paused. Maybe that's something we can fix. I felt a chill run down my spine. Fix? What did that even mean? I should have walked away. I should have pretended I never heard anything. But instead, I stayed, frozen in place, as Richard continued. He's a sensitive kid. Always has been, right? More gentle. More refined. His voice was filled with something I couldn't quite place. Admiration? Curiosity? Obsession? With the right guidance, he could be exactly what we need. Mom hesitated. I don't know, Richard, he's a grown boy. I don't think. You trust me, don't you? Richard interrupted. I've done so much for you. I've done so much for him. Just give it some thought. I didn't hear what Mom said after that. Because I was already backing away, heart pounding, hands trembling. Richard wasn't just talking about having a daughter. He was talking about making one. And that daughter was supposed to be me. I barely slept that night. My mind was racing with questions, fears, possibilities. Was Richard serious? Would Mom actually agree to something so insane? Morning came, and everything seemed normal. Mom made breakfast. Richard read the newspaper, and no one acted like they had discussed anything disturbing the night before. I almost convinced myself I had imagined it, until my mom called me into her room later that evening. She sat on the edge of the bed, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Nervous? Excited? Guilty? Honey, I need to talk to you about something, she said softly. I swallowed. What is it? She hesitated. You know how much Richard cares about us, right? I nodded, stomach twisting. And you know he wants what's best for you. I didn't answer. Mom took a deep breath. I think maybe this could be a good thing. A new experience. You've always been different, Ethan. More delicate. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to try something new. I felt my throat tighten. Mom, what are you saying? She reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. Richard thinks we should give it a try. Just for a little while. No pressure. Just a small change. I yanked my hand away. You're joking, right? But she wasn't. And that was the moment I realized I wasn't Ethan anymore. I was becoming someone else. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. For the next few days, I tried to pretend nothing had changed. I went to class. I texted Emma. I did my best to act normal. But nothing was normal. Not anymore. Mom watched me differently now, like she was waiting for something. Like she was expecting me to agree. And Richard? Richard had already decided. It started small. Try this moisturizer, Ethan, he would say, handing me expensive skincare products. You need to take better care of your complexion. Or, stand up straight. Don't slouch. A proper posture makes all the difference. He was always correcting me, watching me, shaping me. At first, I resisted. I told myself I wouldn't let him get inside my head. But the more I fought, the harder he pushed. And then, one night, I came home to find a box waiting for me on my bed. I opened it, and my breath caught in my throat. Inside was a dress. Not some childish, frilly thing, but an elegant, satin slip dress in pale pink. Next to it was a handwritten note. Just try it. You might be surprised. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. The fabric was impossibly smooth, delicate, almost hypnotizing. I should have thrown it away. But instead, I closed my door, locked it, and held the dress against my body. It fit too perfectly, like it was always meant to be mine. The next morning, Mom made pancakes, which meant she was feeling guilty. Did you like the dress? She asked hesitantly. I didn't answer. Richard took a sip of his coffee, watching me with that infuriating smirk. You tried it on, didn't you? My stomach twisted. He knew. Somehow he always knew. I don't know what you're talking about, I muttered, shoving a forkful of pancakes into my mouth. Richard chuckled. It's okay to be curious, Ethan. Exploration is healthy. My mom cleared her throat. Actually, Richard had an idea. A little experiment. Nothing serious. I froze. She continued, voice gentle. How about just one evening? A little makeover. Just to see how it feels. My hands curled into fists under the table. No. Mom sighed. Ethan. I said no. Richard leaned forward, clasping his hands together. You know, you don't have to be so dramatic. It's just clothing. Just makeup. Why are you so afraid? I gritted my teeth. Because this isn't about clothes. This is about control. For the first time, Richard's smile faltered. A silence stretched between us. Then he spoke again, softer, almost dangerously calm. All right, he said. If that's how you feel. I exhaled in relief. But I should have known better. Richard never gave up that easily. The next weekend, Mom and Richard planned a fancy dinner party at the house. Guests from Richard's business circles were invited. Important people, powerful people. I had planned to stay in my room all night. But that wasn't an option. Ethan, can you come here for a second? Mom called. I walked into her bedroom and stopped dead in my tracks. On the bed was another dress, this one even more extravagant. Next to it sat a full makeup kit. Mom smiled nervously. We need to talk. I backed away. No. No way. Richard appeared in the doorway, blocking my escape. Ethan, you're being difficult. My pulse pounded. I was trapped. Mom stepped closer. Listen, some of Richard's business partners will be here. And, well, one of them knows I have a daughter. My blood ran cold. What? I choked. She wouldn't meet my eyes. It just slipped out, she admitted. Richard told them I had a beautiful daughter and I staggered backward. You lied? You told them. Richard sighed. It was a harmless, white lie. But now, we need you to play along. Just for tonight. I shook my head.
No.
No, this was insane. Mom reached for my hand. Please, Ethan. Just this once. Tears burned behind my eyes. They weren't asking me. They were telling me. And deep down, I already knew. There was no way out. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the dress. Mom and Richard stood over me, waiting. This isn't fair, I whispered, my voice shaking. Richard's expression remained cold. Life isn't fair. Now put it on. I clenched my fists. And if I don't, his smirk returned. Then I tell your friends, your classmates, maybe even Emma. My stomach dropped. You wouldn't. Richard leaned closer. Are you sure about that? I felt sick. They had trapped me completely. Mom knelt beside me. Ethan, I know this is hard, but please just go along with it for tonight. Just once. Then it's over. I wanted to scream, to run, but I didn't. Instead, I picked up the dress with trembling hands. I had no choice. I stood in front of the mirror, completely transformed. The girl staring back at me wasn't me. She had long, flowing hair, a wig, perfectly styled. Her lips were painted a soft pink. Her lashes curled upward, making her eyes seem impossibly big. Her skin looked flawless, smooth, delicate. And the dress, the silk hugged my body, draping over me like it had been designed for me. My hands trembled as I touched my reflection. I looked real. I looked like someone else. Mom stood behind me, her eyes shining with something I couldn't place. You're beautiful. I swallowed hard. I don't want to do this. Richard entered, his gaze sweeping over me. A slow smirk spread across his face. Perfect. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Richard walked over and reached into his pocket. One last thing, he said, pulling out a delicate gold necklace. He stepped behind me and fastened it around my neck. When I looked in the mirror again, I felt something deep inside me break. I wasn't Ethan anymore. I was her, whoever she was. I stepped out of my room, my legs shaky, in the heels Mom had forced me into. The guests had already arrived. The house buzzed with laughter and conversation. I wanted to run. Richard gave me a warning look. Smile, he whispered. You don't want to embarrass your mother, do you? I forced my lips into a trembling smile. Mom placed a hand on my back. Everyone, I'd like you to meet my daughter, Emily. The name hit me like a slap. I wasn't Ethan tonight. I was Emily, a girl.
A lie.
I forced myself forward as people turned toward me, their eyes lighting up with admiration. She's stunning, one of Richard's business partners said, reaching for my hand. I stiffened as he kissed my fingers. Richard beamed. She takes after her mother. I wanted to disappear. As the evening wore on, I realized something terrifying. I was getting away with it. No one suspected a thing. They treated me like a real girl, complimenting my dress, my hair, my eyes. They pulled me into conversations, asked me about my hobbies. I had to lie over and over again. I told them I loved fashion, that I adored ballet, that I was interested in modeling. Words I never thought I'd say. But the worst part? I was good at it. Too good. My voice softened instinctively. My mannerisms adjusted. I walked, spoke, acted like Emily. Like she was real. Like she was taking over. And as much as I hated it, there was something else deep inside me. A tiny, horrifying voice whispering, "You like this, don't you?" I was refilling my drink when I heard a voice behind me. Ethan? I froze. My heart stopped beating. I turned around slowly. Emma stood there. My Emma. The girl I loved. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her eyes widened as she took me in, from the dress to the makeup to the wig. Emma, I whispered, my voice wrong. Too soft, too feminine. She took a shaky step forward. What the hell is going on? My blood turned to ice. I tried to speak, to explain, but nothing came out. And then, Richard's voice rang out from across the room. Emily, dear, come meet Mr. Lockwood. Emma's eyes snapped to him. I saw it, the realization, the understanding. I opened my mouth to beg her not to say anything, but she was already turning away, already leaving. And just like that, my entire world shattered. I barely made it to the hallway before my knees gave out. I had to get to Emma. I had to stop her. But my dress was tight, the heels made it impossible to run, and every step felt like wading through quicksand. By the time I reached the front door, Emma was already gone. Panic clawed at my throat. She knew.
She had seen me like this.
And she was going to tell. Richard appeared behind me, his voice a low warning. "Where do you think you're going, Emily?" I flinched at the name. "I have to find Emma," I said, breathless. Richard chuckled, his hand tightening around my wrist. "Not looking like that, you don't." I yanked my arm free. "You don't control me." His smirk faded. "You sure about that?" I turned on my heel and bolted for the staircase. I needed to get out of this dress. Out of this lie. I needed to be Ethan again before it was too late. But deep down, I knew. It was already too late. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by my phone, waiting. Dreading. At 2:34 a.m., Emma finally texted. "We need to talk. Meet me at the park.
Now."
My stomach twisted into knots. I hesitated before replying. "Okay." I threw on a hoodie and jeans, wiped off the makeup, and yanked off the wig. I had to fix this. I had to make her understand. Emma stood by the swings, arms crossed, her face a mixture of shock, betrayal, and something else I couldn't name. She didn't speak when I walked up. I swallowed hard. "Emma, Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why were you dressed like that?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. What could I say? That my mother's boyfriend had forced me? That I had no choice? Or the worst truth of all, that a part of me had started to like it? Emma shook her head. "How long?" I hesitated. She scoffed. "So, it wasn't just a night, was it?" I clenched my fists. "It wasn't my choice." Her eyes darkened. "Then why did you look so comfortable?" My heart skipped a beat. She had seen it. The way I had moved, the way I had become Emily. And she wasn't wrong. That was the scariest part. Emma exhaled sharply. "Are you?" She hesitated, then whispered. "Are you trans?" The words sent a jolt through me. "No." I blurted out. "I'm not, I never." She watched me struggle. And that's when I saw it. The doubt in her eyes. Because even I didn't sound sure anymore. "I need the truth, Ethan." Emma's voice was soft, almost pleading. "I don't care what it is, but I can't do this if you're going to lie to me." My chest tightened. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to say it was all Richard's fault, that I had no choice, that I wasn't whoever she thought I was. But the words wouldn't come out. Because deep down, I wasn't sure if they were true. Emma sighed. "If you can't be honest with me, I don't think I can be with you." Panic surged through me. "Emma, please." She took a step back. "Figure out what you want, Ethan." And then, she turned and walked away. For the first time, I felt completely alone. When I got home, Richard was waiting. He sat in the living room, sipping a glass of wine, his expression smug. "How was your little date?" he asked. I clenched my jaw. "Go to hell."
He laughed. "Oh, Ethan."
"You still don't get it, do you?" I crossed my arms. "Get what?" Richard set his glass down and stood. His presence suffocated the room. "I own you now," he said, voice deadly calm. "You think Emma finding out is bad? Imagine what your classmates will say. Your teachers. Everyone you know." I felt ice in my veins. "You wouldn't." He smirked. "You sure about that?" I wanted to hit him, to scream,
To run.
but I couldn't, because I knew he wasn't bluffing. I had lost Emma, and now I was about to lose everything else too. The next morning, I woke up to a nightmare. My phone was blowing up. Text after text. Missed calls. And, the worst part? My classmates knew. Someone, Richard, had leaked photos from last night's party. Photos of me as Emily. Fully dressed. Fully exposed. I sat there, staring at the screen, my hands shaking violently. I was ruined. I could already hear the whispers at school, the laughter, the stares. I had lost everything. And in that moment I realized Richard had won. Unless I did something drastic. I stood in front of the mirror. The same mirror where, just hours ago, I had seen Emily staring back at me. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I reached for the wig, the makeup,
The dress.
I didn't do it because Richard wanted me to. I did it because I wanted to. Because maybe, just maybe, Emily wasn't a lie after all. Maybe she was the real me. And if the world was going to see me this way, then I'd make damn sure they saw who I really was. I stood in front of my mirror, hands trembling as I ran my fingers over the fabric of the dress. It didn't feel like a costume anymore. It felt like me. The texts, the calls, the humiliation, they didn't matter right now. Richard thought he had taken away my choices. He thought he had backed me into a corner. But he was wrong. Because I had one choice left. And I was about to make it. I arrived at school as Emily. Not as Ethan trying to hide. Not as someone pretending to be something they weren't. As her. The whispers started the moment I stepped through the doors. Laughter. Murmurs. Stares. Phones were raised, recording snapping photos. But I didn't stop. I walked through the hallways with my head held high. Even as my heart pounded. Even as my hands shook. Because if I backed down now, then Richard had won. And I refused to let that happen. I barely made it halfway to my locker before I saw her.
Emma.
She stood in the crowd, arms crossed, expression unreadable. My breath caught in my throat. Then, she stepped forward. The crowd fell silent. Emma looked me up and down. I waited for her to say something. To yell, to cry, to ask why. But she just stared at me for what felt like forever. And then, she whispered something so low, I barely heard it. Is this really you? The question hit harder than any insult ever could. I opened my mouth, but before I could answer, someone shoved me from behind. I stumbled forward, barely catching myself before I hit the floor. Laughter erupted around me. Someone muttered, "Freak." Heat rose to my face. My body tensed. I could feel the eyes on me, waiting for me to run.
To cry. To break.
But I wouldn't. I straightened, ignoring the pounding in my chest, and met Emma's gaze. Yes. The word came out stronger than I expected. A declaration. A challenge. Emma's eyes widened. And then, she reached for my hand. Before I could process what was happening, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out. One new message. Richard. Meet me at home.
Now.
Or you'll regret it. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I looked at Emma.
At the crowd around me.
I had made my choice. But Richard wasn't finished with me yet. I stood outside my house, heart hammering. Richard was waiting inside. I knew this was a trap. I knew walking in there meant walking into something dangerous. But I also knew this wasn't over. Not yet. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The dining room was too quiet. Mom sat at the head of the table, oblivious, chatting about her day. Richard sat across from me, his smirk never fading. But I was barely listening. I could feel the dress clinging to my skin. The lipstick Richard had made me wear felt like a brand, a stain. Every time I shifted, the wig brushed against my shoulders, a constant reminder of what he had done to me. Mom laughed at something Richard said. He met my eyes. And then, he reached out and tucked a stray curl of my wig behind my ear. Mom didn't notice. But I did. It felt like he was staking his claim. And I wanted to vomit. I couldn't take it. Not another second. I pushed back my chair and stumbled out of the room. Richard's voice followed me. Where do you think you're going, sweetheart? I nearly collapsed right there. Mom called after me, confused. Ethan? I didn't stop.
I ran.
To my room. To safety. But when I slammed the door shut, Richard was already there, leaning against the wall, waiting, smiling, like he knew I had nowhere to go. I wanted to scream, to tear the wig off, to throw the dress at him, and tell him I was done. But my body betrayed me. I just stood there, frozen, Richard took a step closer. Then another. You look good like this, Ethan. His voice was too calm. Like this was normal. Like he had already decided who I was.
No.
No, I don't, I whispered. His smirk deepened. Then why haven't you taken it off? I flinched. Because he was right. I hadn't ripped the wig off. Hadn't changed back into my old clothes. I wanted to tell myself it was because I was scared. But that wasn't the whole truth, was it? Somewhere deep down, a part of me didn't want to. And that was what terrified me the most. Richard leaned in. I backed away. But there was nowhere to go. His voice dropped to a whisper. I could tell your mother. My breath hitched. But I won't. I looked up at him. He was toying with me. Enjoying this. As long as you do exactly what I say. I could have given in. Could have nodded. Could have let him win. But something inside me snapped. I met his gaze. And for the first time, I didn't look away.
No.
His smirk faltered. What? I straightened. Pulled the wig off. Wiped the lipstick from my lips with the back of my hand. And stared him down. You don't control me. The moment I said it, you don't control me. The air in the room shifted. For the first time, Richard's smirk vanished. His jaw clenched. His fingers curled into fists. I braced myself. I knew what was coming. Richard took a slow, deliberate step forward. You think you have a choice? His voice was low, dangerous. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. He wasn't smiling anymore. He was angry. And that scared me more than anything. I backed toward the door, but he cut me off. You think you can just walk away from this? His voice was almost mocking now. What do you think will happen when your mother finds out? I swallowed hard. That was his weapon. His trump card. If Mom saw me like this, if she believed him over me, I could lose everything. I forced myself to stay calm. I needed to think. I couldn't let him see me break. So I did the only thing I could. I turned to the mirror. Looked at myself. The makeup was smeared. The dress was wrinkled. But for the first time, I didn't feel like I was staring at a stranger. I wasn't Ethan anymore. I wasn't Emily either. I was me. And that gave me strength. You don't scare me. I met his eyes in the mirror. And you never will. Richard's face twisted in rage. That was my cue. I bolted for the door. His hand closed around my wrist.
Tight.
Too tight. I gasped. Struggled. But he was stronger. And for a terrifying second, I thought this was it. I thought I had lost. Then, a voice cut through the air. What the hell is going on? My blood ran cold. I turned. Mom was standing in the doorway. Eyes wide. Mouth slightly open. Staring at me. At the dress. At my smeared makeup. At Richard's hand, still wrapped around my wrist. Time stopped. Richard's grip loosened. Slowly, he turned to face Mom. And then, he did the one thing I never expected. He smiled. It's not what it looks like, he said smoothly. Liar. I knew what was coming next. He was going to twist the story. Make it sound like his idea was mine. Like I had wanted this. And, if I didn't say something fast, I would lose. I took a breath. My chest ached. I looked at Mom. At the confusion in her eyes. And then, I made a choice. I squared my shoulders, lifted my chin, and told her the truth. Mom, Richard's been trying to turn me into his daughter.